I'm really looking forward to this year's conference. As ever, there's been a lot of planning, but we've got an eclectic mix of speakers, interactive sessions, and we want people to just take some time out to network, to engage with the sessions, and take something valuable back to work that they can implement.
So I had a brilliant time chairing the opening session for PPMA's conference with David Perdue from the NHS, Deputy Chief Executive, Shaukat Lal from Sandwell Council, Chief Exec, and Jonathan Stevenson, Chief Executive. And the three takeaways that I took from what they were challenging the audience to do is, first of all, help them to look around the corner. I thought that was a great kind of challenge. Now, what is that about? Being better and more effective with strategic workforce planning, using data effectively and using the data to analyse the next right thing to do. Second point for me was also about collaboration. So collaborating across the business and also outside of the business to make sure that we're making the right decisions and choices, and also tackling some of those big ticket items such as skills shortages and talent development. And the third one was about providing some opportunity for realistic optimism. In public sector, we've got to be able to provide that compelling reason to come join. It's a brilliant space for a career development, and HR and organisational development colleagues have a real role to play in providing that route in to the market.
Leaders need to make room for emotional intelligence and cultural intelligence. I think the other thing that I highlighted was what is an inclusive leader, and it just doesn't happen by osmosis. So it's being intentional in their action to really think about what they're saying, what they're prioritising, how do they measure, and how they bring people together to collaborate and make work better.
Today in my system leadership session, the 3 points I really wanted the audience to take away was to think about what is the time that's needed to build relationships across the system, who's involved in the system, how do you get to understand what their goals and objectives are, as well as your own and your own organisation. To really think about where you can influence and sometimes use that influence even if you haven't got money or positional power, but you can use evidence to show that your organisation can make the biggest difference on a particular topic. And then about collaboration and making sure you think about not just collaboration across agencies and in systems, but also in your own organisation. Unless you're collaborating and working and drawing on all the strengths in your organisation, it becomes really difficult to make a really good difference in your systems leadership across your place or across systems.
We just had a great session actually, really lively, lots of great fun, and I hope that we managed to just land this belief, this hope that there is a role for human beings, particularly in this technology and AI world that we're hearing so much about. But we've got to change. It's no longer about being the smartest person in the room, I don't think. It's about being able to unlock the smartest thinking, and that's from yourself, others, but equally, how do we use technology and AI? Actually, knowledge, expertise for me are fast becoming commoditized. One, because of technology, but also because of a global workforce. Someone can do my job cheaper in a different part of the world, right? We have to accept that. So how do we continue to add value to what we bring as human beings in the workforce? And for me, that's all about our ability to be creative. So we spent this session just celebrating what does creativity mean actually as a critical skill at the top table of our skill set, alongside knowledge, expertise, ability to deliver, all of those things that we traditionally value. So we knock it off its pedestal, give it some framework that actually helps people to use it a bit more every day. And it's kind of centered around this term of disruption that we celebrated. But interestingly, disruption's a bit of a sort of loaded word. And what we made sure that everybody sort of took away was just this, it's not about, I think very few people in this room, or indeed the teams that they work with, are responsible for the disruptive innovation inside their organisations. But even if we want incremental change, I need to spend 5% less money next year, whatever it be, often we have to disrupt our thinking and our legacy autopilot way of looking at things in order to get there. So we shared some top tips to help people to do that, but equally just recognising that our state, our environment, how we are today, all play a really impactful role on our ability to think differently, and so just shining a light on some of the value of those as well. And finally, we just celebrated the fact that you don't have to be serious to do serious work, and we all work on important things. Our jobs are important, as are our mortgages, our rent, whatever it be, but therefore we should enjoy working on them because it's having a positive impact to us, our lives, our families.
The main issue that we've got is that things have barely moved on. Local government is still suffering from recruitment and retention, from skill shortages across a whole range of frontline services. The narrative we see from government, from political parties, when we talk about public services is around the NHS, it's around police, it's around fire. Very rarely do we hear about the role of the local government frontline services. So who empties the bins, who looks after our leisure centres, who cleans the parks, who makes those parks look like beautiful places for people to enjoy some nice green public realm. All of those services are under the radar. So what I think we need to get from today and from the data that APS is demonstrated today is a real recognition about the value of those frontline services, what the workforce in local government contributes to local health and well-being, and what it contributes to local economies.
In our session, we talked about creating healthy workplaces. The first thing is that we'd like people to address the real problems. Sometimes when people develop interventions, they focus on the things which are kind of low-hanging fruit, easy to deal with. But actually, trying to deal with the most difficult problems is the best way to start. The second lesson relates to the degree to which the whole organisation needs to be involved. Another mistake, which is kind of related to the first one, is that sometimes people only give interventions or well-being policies to a particular part of the organisation. We have to include everybody when it comes to well-being in the organisation. Because if we don't, we could actually, we could do more damage by communicating to people that they're somehow less important because they didn't receive the benefits of the well-being intervention.
The main highlight that I would like people to take away would be for them to be okay with stepping back in a crisis situation, because when you're in a crisis, we tend to just think about action. But ideally, we step back a little bit so that we can see things as they are, so we're not banging our heads against a tree instead of stepping back and seeing the whole forest. Because that's what cortisol and adrenaline does to our bodies. We get clouded, we cannot see things well. But when we step back and we can look at the other ways, when we are willing to adapt to that situation, the cortisol lowers, adrenaline lowers, and we're able to make better decisions, which is ultimately what helps them to keep talents, to overcome challenges, and overall just do a better job, make better decisions, and correct the decisions that go wrong so they don't have to mull over every single mistake they do.
The key elements that really the audience should put into practice is to practice every day simple stress management techniques that revolve around deep breathing. It's called vasovagal breathing, where you breathe in more deeply, you breathe out in a more extended way, and it actually helps you switch from the stress chemistry to the more relaxed endorphin type chemistry. The second thing I would say is know your numbers. We're great at knowing our business numbers and the profit and loss of our companies and our organisations. We're not great at knowing our own personal numbers that really reflect our health and well-being. And the third thing I think we should really focus on is trying to improve the quality of our sleep. We neglect that so much, but really that's when our cells repair, that's when our bodies rejuvenate and recover, and we should really focus on not compromising on our sleep.
The key to happiness at work is yourself, is taking your own responsibility for your own happiness. A lot of behaviour at work is from your childhood, it's from childhood trauma, we all know that. But when you take responsibility and you say, actually it's me that is unhappy and has that awareness, then you can actually start the upward trajectory of happiness and start to know yourself, to know what makes you unhappy. Look out for the lemon suckers in your life and don't be become a lemon sucker yourself, because that's what unhappiness is. You become unhappy, you go in a downward spiral, you make others unhappy. And in a workplace, we all know that negativity is contagious, but so is happiness. So wouldn't it be great if we all started to work on a culture where our cultures in the workplace promote happiness instead of squashing the happy people with people sucking lemons? And I think as well, learn what makes you happy, and not just carving out time for yourself, but actually saying to yourself, I know these 5 things make me happy. Like for me, I know Earl Grey tea makes me happy, a piece of fruit cake in my break makes me happy, going in the cupboard with my friend and having a giggle about something silly makes me happy. And then at the very start of the day, just dancing before I go out of the house. No one's watching me except my dog, but just having a little like boogie. It sounds crazy, doesn't it, that it could be that simple, but it really is.
I think the highlights of the session would be that there's so much more we can do to portray, to express, to excite people about the careers that they can have in local government, because they don't know yet. But when they do find out the purpose, the impact, and the fact that local government's about more than just potholes and bins, they're going to be drawn to it, they're going to be excited by it, and the sector in itself is going to see a big difference as a result.
The main thing to bear in mind with AI is its inevitability. I think AI is coming, whether we like it or not, and that's going to make some people frightened in the same way that computers makes people frightened. But don't think of it as a computer. Think of it as an assistant coming. Think of it as an intelligent person, not a computer, because it's much easier speaking to people than it is speaking to computers. And if you think of it in those terms, it's inevitable, it is coming. Learn the language, learn how to speak to it. It's so close to English. In fact, if you had a new person coming into the office, that's how you would train them if you were onboarding somebody. So I think that is the key takeaway, is that embrace it. It's good for your career, because if you're not using it and everyone else is using it, you're likely to get left behind. So embrace it, don't be afraid, treat it like a new assistant coming to you, and you'll get fantastic results.
Highlights been Dr. Dorian Goodmore. I think the stuff around stress is really important, and the connection to that is the creativity bit that we saw from Kirk on I think it was the first session yesterday. He was great. A lot of that is really important. We've been going through a big change process, so it's really important that we think about how we look after people.
I would say Kirk's session, mostly because it was quite energising, and I think the creative thinking, taking that back to leadership and kind of building that into some of our programmes was really interesting to hear.
The highlight kind of session was Kirk, definitely. I just found that he was a fascinating chap to just watch on stage, never mind listen to, and what he spoke about was just incredibly riveting.
It's been really varied, and again really great for networking and just talking to people on the topics. Just really sparked a lot of interest for me, so it's been really good.
What a fantastic 3-day conference we've had at PPMA. I'm always, really excited to come to PPMA, but as new president, it's been even more special. But I think, again, for me, PPMA conference is the opportunity to meet with your colleagues from across the country, colleagues who are sharing the same experiences as you in your workplace, in sharing the same experiences as you in terms of the challenges that they're facing in trying to provide the best HR and OD services that they can. We've had some fantastic speakers. Some of them have really resonated with me in terms of the messages that they've given, the insights that they've provided. So I think coming to conference, you always get a takeaway, and that is really important. And I think getting that takeaway, bringing it back to your organisation, getting that opportunity to have some time to do that thinking, which you don't often get whilst you're in the thick of it in your organisation, is also another key benefit of conference time. So that focused time to think, that focused time to absorb is the real importance of conference. And we want more and more people to give themselves the grace to take some time out and to really focus and to get good things out of the conference, bring back to your organisation, replenish your energy and give yourself some opportunity to think a little bit differently, and that's what the conference does. So thank you for everyone who came to the conference this year.